Wellness and innovation. EIN TV, educative, innovative, and nature centric.
Today. And good evening, depending on where you're joining us. This is Ediog Singing and Dunabon here in TV. And today, of course, the world about tomorrow. Yesterday was the International Day of the Boy Child. And over the years, there's been concerns in different quarters that a lot has been done for the girl child, but nothing really, and no special attention has been given to the boy child. And with this, so many people were concerned. And sometime I think about 2019 or thereabout, or 2017, I can't get the date exactly. Dr. Jerome, had to initiate something about the boy child. And over the years, it's been marked by the world over, by everyone across the globe to celebrate the boy child. And here in Akwa Ibom, there's been, in Nigeria and of course across Africa, there's been a movement for the boy child, and it's been going on like a wildfire because when they started out, of course, I'm a part of them too. When we started out sometime in 2021, 2022, we didn't really, we had a broader vision of going into African nations, but we didn't know it to run as fast as this. But over the years, we've been doing tremendously well for the boy child and, of course, for the man. And that is the Adams Project Africa. So, to mark this day, the International Day of the Boy Child, the Adams Project Africa has been embarking on a series of activities in different countries across Africa. And there's been a man behind the scene who has been making sure that these things happen. He is the push that has been, driving all of us in the Adams Project Africa. Not quite long ago, I just had to come back from a school project to, set up this conversation so that we could, converse and have a meaningful engagement for the boy child. So, ladies and gentlemen, joining us today from Canada is the executive director of the Helpers Network, and of course the progenitor of the Adams Project Africa. I call him a brother and friend because, of course, I've been a boy child and seen a man who has been so passionate about what the boy child becomes in the future and how the boy child could personally influence the society positively. It makes him automatically my brother and friend. And of course, he's been doing fantastically well for the boy child and the society as well. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today is Mr. Ekpeno John Ukut. Mr. Ekpeno, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Edong Sayana. Good to be here.
My pleasure having you. How's Canada today?
Canada is there, kind of a little bit hot because we were out of winter about almost 2 months ago now. So the weather is
Wow.
becoming hot, and some places are experiencing wildfire. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's fine. Yeah.
Hmm. That means that someday maybe I'll get to have you talk about the climatic conditions in Canada. But today we are here for the boy child, and you know our concerns when it comes to ANTV and of course the things we do on environmental research. But today we are out for the boy child, and our conversation today should center on the boy child. The theme of this year's International Day of the Boy Child
Of course,
is boys.
the boy child is also a product of our environment and some
Of
of the
course.
challenges that they face and some of the eventual crimes that they commit eventually go into the same society, the same environment that we are part of. So it's okay for us to talk about the boy child.
There's a problem. All right, so the theme of this is actually very significant, talking about boys and their mental health. And in Tapa, there's been a coinage, shining the light on the boy child. Uh, how would you, or what would you make of this year's theme of the International Day of the Boy Child?
Thank you very much for that question. I think the major theme, the headline theme for this year's celebration, which the Helpers Network and brought forward and brought that to the Adams Project Africa is shine a light to rescue the boys, and
Yeah,
that rings bell a lot to everybody because we've had a lot of situations in the past where young boys have gone through gloomy circumstances and gloomy situations, dark ends. So we found it imperative for us to shine a light, whatsoever light it is. Light could come in different forms. So, in whatever form that particular light comes forth, just find a way to rescue the boys.
mm,
So, we have actually failed to talk about the issues that boys go through. And unfortunately, that is one of the primary reasons why the world is in the dungeon where we are at the moment. Because the men that we have today who are leading and ruling over the world were once young boys.
of course.
For most of them, the temperaments, the behaviors that they exhibit today as men did not start today. They have been part and parcel of them when they were young boys. And unfortunately, no single individual or no community or no society at that point in time scolded them and drew their attention to the fact that what they were doing was wrong. So the light in this sense could actually be considered to be, you cautioning somebody. Light could be caution, just cautioning somebody. Do not do that. Do this. Because if you do that, this will happen. If you do that, that will happen. That could be the light.
Okay, so that I what I wanted you to talk about, but I am happy with the things that Tapa is doing, and of course that particular topic that Tapa has to personalize. It's quite significant because when I reflected on the topic, in fact, the school we had to go on a project in Akwa Ibom, the school management were so fascinated over the theme that we went there with, shining light on the boy child, and I want to know exactly because you've talked about shining the light on the boy child, and you've been so passionate about the boy child. Was it a light that shone on you? Who actually shone this light on you that got you motivated to be so passionate about the boy child? Because we must know the story before we talk about the glory.
I think people actually ask me very similar questions. Over the years, I've had similar questions being posed to me, especially because of my involvement in community development and the kind of projects that I actually initiate and execute. I remember a similar question being thrown at me a couple of not quite long ago, a couple of years ago, about my involvement in my cancer NGO, because I coincidentally also run a cancer foundation
Oh wow.
in Nigeria. So, somebody asked me, "Do you have cancer?" Or or does anybody in your family have cancer that you are so passionate about the cancer project? And I'm like, I don't need to have that particular problem for me to be pushed. I think mine is a different case entirely. I think my passion is born out from just finding solutions to problems, to societal problems.
Mm,
So whether I am directly involved in that particular situation or not, the fact that I have seen a problem and I know in my heart that that particular problem should be solved, I just go out for it. So
mm.
this is the answer I will give you.
You just go
One
out for it
beautiful
because
day, yeah, one beautiful day, I just told myself that I've heard so much about the girl child projects and all that, and it's beautiful. What has been done for the girl child is beautiful, it's commendable, it's good, because what it has done is that it has brought out women to the forefront and now they can speak for themselves. And I can
absolutely,
assure you that there is no man that wants to, get involved with a woman who cannot even speak or a woman who cannot, solve one problem or the other. So what the girl child fight, what the, women fight have actually done over the years is that it has groomed better women for us. It has groomed better women for the society. And the
absolutely.
society is better off But now the challenge that has happened in that process is that we have completely forgotten that actually it is not only women that exist in the world, that there are men in the world. And these men that we have today were once boys. There are young boys in our society who don't understand what life is. Just look around you. You observe that there are millions of young ladies who are not fortunate enough to have husbands to marry.
Mm, mm,
Do you really think that those young ladies prefer to stay single? No, I don't think they do. It's primarily because some of the men who walk up to them to ask them out are not up to the standard.
mm.
So for a lot of young men, we have lost our standard in the society. We are no longer being able to, handle issues the way we're supposed to. And this cut across all ages. So you have a lot of young men across the world who have gotten to a certain age that they are actually supposed to be more mature, but they cannot solve problems. Some of them are
Mm.
still poor. They can't solve their own financial problems. Is it the financial problems of another person that they can solve? They can solve it. So when you look at it holistically, you realize that I found a problem. And immediately I found a problem in 2021. I just told myself, because that's what I do best, just initiating projects. So I just told myself that there was a need for us to talk about it. And at the time, my organization was just a baby. The Helpers Network was just a baby. So I said, all right, let's give it a trial and see how it works. So we then started the project called the Adams Project Africa. You might be wondering, where did the name come from and all that.
Yeah, we'll get to talk about that. Okay, so I like the fact that, because another question, and you almost wanted to hit what I wanted to ask earlier, but let me put it forth. Because in some of the engagement we've had, some persons, due to religious sentiments, want to ask, why do we have Adam in the name of a project? Some people are Christians, some are Muslims, some don't even believe in the Bible. So the question always pop up: why do you have Adam in the name of the project? And I don't know. You're the progenitor, so you should be in the best position to share your thoughts on this.
So I remember vividly well the day I was looking for a name to call the project, and the young lady who was my assistant at the time, I told her that I needed a name for the project. We already discussed the project itself, myself and how we shared thoughts and all that, and we're looking for a viable, approach of pushing the project forward. Then I think one of those days I asked her, I said, I need a name for this project. And I need a name fast, because once I have a name, the name itself will be able to assist me to clearly put
Things
the
in place,
project
yeah.
in perspective. So I remember very well, she went back, and for 1 week she didn't get back to me, 1 full week she didn't get back to me. And I was very busy with another project that I was handling at the time. I think that was the same time I was handling my cancer projects, the last cancer project I did in Nigeria. I think that was the same time, October 2021 or thereabout. So for 1 full week she didn't get back to me. And so I reached out to her. I said, I've not heard from you about that. Were you able to find? She said it was difficult for her to find a name for the project.
Mm.
And so I told her, all right, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Because one way or the other, I have a way of christening my projects. I have quite a different way of christening all my projects. So I just went back to my room. That beautiful night, I slept, and then I woke up with a name.
Mm.
And then when I slept and woke up with a name, the name wasn't the Adams Project Africa. The name was actually the Adams Project.
Oh, wow.
That was the name, the Adams Project. Where did the Adams come from? So I was thinking about the fact that we have a project that is supposed to deal with issues of boys and men. Primarily, the focus area of this project is young boys between the ages of 7 and 18, and then men. And then, of course, we have guardians, and under the guardians, we have mothers and parents generally under the guidance. So it's not as if we are completely throwing away women. Women are also involved, but they might not be directly involved, because of course we have a lot of women as the guardian of all these children, so they are also involved in the process.
Absolutely.
So I thought about it. I said, but why not talk about the first man? And Adam was the first man. He wasn't the first man to only Christians. He was the
Yes,
first
of
man
course.
to, creation, creation itself. So I said, okay, so why not just make it to, reflect Adam being the name of the first man? So that was how the name, the Adams Project, came about. But I think it was about 2 weeks there, 2 weeks after I had titled it the Adams Project, that I felt that I wanted to expand the scope of the project. I did not want the project to be just focused in Nigeria. So I wanted a project that was all encompassing within the continent of Africa. So I had to add Africa to it barely 2 weeks after I had officially named the project. So I had to add Africa. That's how we had the name, the Adams Project Africa, TAPA. And it's been wonderful ever since.
Mm. Now let's talk about the impact, because from your description or your explanation now, Tapa is barely 2 years old, if I'm correct, and we already across Africa. How has been the impact so far?
Oh, very beautiful, I must say. I must tell you too that I never expected it to fly the way it's flying.
Oh wow,
But you see, in life, at times, all you need to do is just to take a step, and every other thing will fall in place. It
absolutely.
is it is only people who don't take steps, people who don't take risk, those are the ones who don't have stories to tell. So what I did, or what we have done so far as a team, because we have a very robust team. So what we have done so far is just to push the project, and then we allow other things to be determined by God and faith. So our impact has been wonderful. We started with just Nigeria. When we started in January, in December 2021, we started with just Nigeria. But as I speak with you now, TAPA is currently in 11 countries in Africa,
Wow.
actively in 8 countries. So the project we have done in the last 3 days has actually happened in 8 countries in Africa. It has been
Wow.
happening Nigeria, and in Nigeria, so interesting. TAPA is in 23 states in Nigeria. out of the 36 states we have, we're in
86, yeah.
23 states. So that's quite interesting. And that 23 states that we are actually the states that are very, very active. We have like about 5 states or 6 states that we have initiated the project in those states. We have a team in those states, but they are shaky a little bit. So we're still looking at those states to see how we can make them stronger. In Ghana, TAPA is in Ghana, and we're in about 5 regions of Ghana.
Amazing.
5 regions of Ghana. And it's quite interesting that in all the regions, we had a project yesterday. In all the regions of Ghana, we had a project yesterday. TAPA is in Kenya. And in Kenya, we currently have bases in 2 different regions, and we had projects in both regions yesterday. TAPA is in South Africa. In South Africa, for now, the way we had project yesterday, we had project in KwaZulu Natal. That's where we had a project yesterday. But we have a base in Cape Town, but we didn't hold a project yesterday in Cape
Oh wow.
Town. TAPA is also in Cameroon. We couldn't hold a project yesterday in Cameroon, but they have started the planning, but we couldn't eventually hold the project. Hopefully, we're going to have their project on the 27th of May, which is supposed to be Children's Day.
Children's Day, yeah.
So TAPA is also in Liberia, TAPA is also in Rwanda, and is in Congo. These countries TAPA is currently running, but there are 3 new countries that came on board TAPA just within the last 1 week. That will be Malawi, Lesotho, and Uganda.
Oh wow.
These countries have also picked interest in TAPA activities, and we have initiated a team in those places, and we're hoping that the project will fly in the next coming months, because TAPA is not a one-off project, it's a continuous project. When we started the project last in 2021 December, the plan was that the project will run for 3 straight years as a pilot project. of the organization, where we observe it for 3 years and then we return back to do a kind of a monitoring and evaluation to see how far we have gone, where we are, and we then know how to move forward from there. So far we're moving fine. You know, third year or a 3 year cycle is going to elapse by the end of next year. So hopefully when we get to the end of next year, when we are done celebrating our TAPA model conference in November next year, then we can sit back and review what we have done and know if we have moved forward or not and what we should do to expand. So the impact has been very massive, especially with this very project that we are currently having because we're not done. I think so far TAPA has been in contact with, the minimum I am sure of, minimum number of children, not including adults, the children that I'm sure of that we have been in contact with is in somewhere around 15,000 children across these countries.
That's amazing.
Across these countries, about 15,000 children TAPA has been in contact with, directly and indirectly. Now, what that has done is that we have heard stories of children. We have heard, we have been able to key into some of the problems that most of these children have, because our teams are all encompassing. We have counselors on our teams. We have, social workers on our team. We have medical doctors on our team. We have virtually everything you can think of. We have lawyers. So if you are talking about the legal angle, we have everybody cut across every way on our team. And what that does is that it gives us that strength for us to be able to handle issues, whatsoever issue that comes up with these children. We are able to handle those issues easily without stress. So far the impact has been massive. In fact, with all sincerity, I am as surprised as you are with the impact that we have put out so far. It has been massive, and what that has done is that it has also sent a certain wave to this part of the world where I am, and they are slowly requesting for a similar project, which
Wow.
I'm just studying. I'm studying carefully to see if it is something that will be viable, because these are two different societies,
Of course.
and because there are two different societies, what could work in Africa might not necessarily work over here. So I'm
Absolutely.
studying it to understand how the entire process currently is, and if there is any possibility of a similar thing happening, or there is a possibility of us getting something completely new happening here, while weighing those options together. So far the impact has been massive. We have been in contact with not less than 15,000 children across these countries that I've mentioned, and we have been engaged with them. In the next couple of days now, a holistic report will be out from our M&E team, a holistic report about the entire project that has happened, and you get to see the figures. The statistics will be, the statistics will be massive. And once it is out, I will be fortunate. I will, bring it up and share it with the world so that we get to see what's happening and how we're going about the entire project.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm happy with the success stories you're sharing, and of course how the reach and the wide we've gone as a project, not just as a association now. And of course to the mother organization, the Elvas Network. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ekpeno. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special edition celebrating the International Day of Boy Child on ERNT. My name is Ediong Senyen Ndunobo, and I'm having with me today a fantastic fellow, a man who is out to see the change. He says his only inspiration is to see that he solves societal problems, not really until he comes in contact with a problem or get affected by the problem, but by solving. Once he see a problem, he wants to solve them. He's Ekpeno John Ukut. Ekpeno is joining us from Canada today, and of course he is the executive director of the Helpers Network. There are so many projects under the Helpers Network. I've been privileged to know a couple of them, and the Adams Project Africa, which he happens to be the progenitor, is a project under the Helpers Network. And Ekpeno today has been sharing some very fantastic opinion and the things they do, and he is still very much open for us to engage further. So Ekpeno, let me get back to you. You've shared how the people over there in Canada are interested in the project, and they want you to see how you can create something of sort in that location. Now let's get to talk about the problems of the boy child in Africa, because you've talked about the uniqueness of our different environments, talking about where you are at the moment in Africa. What are those things? What are those problems you feel that are the boy child in Africa, or perhaps the man generally in Africa, are facing at the moment?
Okay, you mentioned earlier when we started about the sub theme, because what we did was that we gave all the teams, country teams or state teams, the primary theme of the entire project for the year. So when we
Yeah,
gave them that, we allowed them to use their own discretion to
to create
rename it,
something.
to create
Okay,
something as a sub theme. So one of the themes that was created, which you mentioned earlier, was the issue of boys and mental health.
mental health. Yeah,
And that has been that for me is one of the very key things that also made us to decide to start up this project. It's one of the numerous things that made us to start it up, because you see there are so many challenges that young people face across the world, and this is a global phenomenon. It's not just about Africa. It's a global thing. We have so many challenges, and these challenges also have their own implications, and most of the implications are negative implications, unfortunately. So for young boys, we have issues of depressive tendencies. Depressive tendencies could come from different things, and it is those depression that, of course, could eventually lead to the mental health breakdown and mental health crisis. We can see a lot of young boys on the street getting mad. Some of them get mad as a result of different things. It could be because they were smoking what they were not supposed to smoke, and so they just go mad. Some of them, it could be because life has been too hard on them, and so they try to turn, from different directions, and they can't. Life has been wicked on so many people, and that breaks them down. Then they eventually have a mental breakdown. But let me leave the mental breakdown and maybe talk about the main issues that we actually have that young boys are facing. Have you seen the rate at which we have cybercrime in the last couple of years?
mm,
Of course, that also came about as a result of ICT. So nowadays we have a lot of young boys who want to get rich fast. Just imagine if I had wanted to get rich fast. You can imagine that I will not be doing this, isn't it? Because this is not fetching me money. Instead, it's
mm,
taking money from me. But you
absolutely.
see, young boys these days only pay more attention to how they can get rich fast. And that in itself is a very big problem. It's a problem to them as young boys, and it's also a problem to their
Yes,
communities and the larger society. It's a big problem because what that has done is that they are actually useless to the society.
mm,
I must tell you, those young boys are useless to the society. As long as they continue doing that, they are useless because they are not contributing anything to the society. Absolutely nothing. They are just sitting down somewhere. When people go and toil and work for themselves, then they just go behind the scene and take what people have worked for over the years.
for.
What have they in turn given back to the society? Nothing. And that is not the life we should be exposing our young boys to now, because that
You
is
know,
not
so
a life.
let's get to the root, because it is understood that the family plays a very vital role in the society, and of course it is known to be the microcosm of the larger society. And a typical male child, there are families where you get to, and the boy would do stuff, and the parents will say, "Oh, leave him, he's a boy. Of course, he's a man." By that time, they may not even call him boy; he's a man. But the female will get to do same thing, and why did you do that? No, you shouldn't do that. And there are also this stereotype of a thing where boys are stereotyped to be strong, to be, and when you want to cry, and they will say, "Ah, come on, why should you cry? You a man, man up," and all of those. Don't you think all of this contribute to affect the mental health of the boy child,
They
or
all
the
con- they all
upbringing?
contribute. They all contribute directly and indirectly. They all
Okay,
contribute. You see, we are also men, isn't it?
Of
So
course.
some of the things that we're talking about are things that we may have passed through as young boys in the past, isn't it?
Of
But
course.
unfortunately, um, we are four in my family, and we're all boys. So
Wow.
maybe we never had opportunity of being told, leave it for your sister. Go to the
That
sitting
means
room.
you were lucky then.
Beautiful. Go to the living
Mm.
room. As a young boy, growing up at the age of 12, I had already started slicing a fan. I think I was barely 11 or 12 years old because my mom was a very busy woman that never really had much time. So she would just drop a bunch of money and drop a list that she had written out and say, go to the market. So you go to the market and buy all the things that have been listed. That fan will be there. You bring the fan back, you wash it very well, and you sun it in the umbrella, and then you slice the fan. When you finish slicing, you pound, you don't grind. You pound it in the mortar, and then you prepare a meal and keep for the family. So I was doing that at the age of 11, 12. But that's because my story was a little bit different.
Mm.
Because there was no girl where they would say, leave it for her, or I know all that. So we're kind of trained a little bit differently. But there are a lot of young boys who don't have similar experience. In their cases, because they have sisters. I can tell you about a friend of mine. This is a true life story, a friend of mine, you know, who completed the university and he never really knew how to actually make Gary. That is
Ah.
Eba. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
I can
wow.
tell you that. So all through his life, because he was from a very rich family, so they used to make all these things for him. So when he went to boarding school, even in secondary school, it
The
was
trend
in the
continues.
dormitory. It was in the dormitory, so everything continued. Then when he got to the university, he was always buying food, always buying food. So when is he going to learn how to make a bar? So he never got to learn that. So one beautiful day, he came to visit me. I can't remember very well. And I told him, will you like to eat? He said, yes, what do you have? I said, I have this soup, I have that soup. It's all right, no problem. I said, but you have to go to the kitchen and make it for yourself. You have to go to the kitchen and make it for yourself. And that's when he actually told me that he has never made it before. And I thought he was lying. I thought he was lying in a way to escape it. But actually, he had never made it before because I had to force him to make it by himself. And he almost disgraced himself. But fortunately for him, that was a disgrace in private because it wasn't in public
Mm,
space.
mm.
But now the issue is very clear that there are a lot of people who face this. Most of these problems are caused by our parents. But you can also blame our parents because you see in this life you can't give what you don't have. Our
Absolutely.
parents too only give what they have, how they were trained, how they grew, the society, the environment they grew from. So that is the knowledge they have as well, and they pass that on to their children. So if you see a parent say that to their son, it's because that's how they were trained. So
Mm.
while we're killing ourselves training our young girls so well, we'll tell our daughters, make sure you are home by 6 p.m. And we allow our sons to stay out till 10 p.m. We train our daughters to know how to do certain things, and we leave our sons. Some boys don't even know that when they wake up in the morning, they're supposed to lay their bed. And
Mm.
so when they so the ripple effect of all what we are now talking about, you will go and realize it when we get married. When a boy eventually get married, and then you realize that the wife is frustrated. The wife is frustrated because the husband, the man that she got married to, doesn't understand life. It's one thing for you to be intelligent and be having A's in the university in school. It's another thing for you to understand life. They are two
Mm.
different things entirely. So for most young people, which is part of the reason why I made the statement I made when we started about the fact that we have a lot of young ladies who are not married, not because they wouldn't love to be married, but because they have not seen young
The
men
right
who are
man.
good enough to be their husbands. So that's where the entire problem goes to. The fact that when you don't train them well and you're busy training the young girls very well, the girls are well mannered, they are becoming entrepreneurs across the world and making good name. But the young boys are there pushing barrow. The young boys are there as conductors. The young boys are there on the street as touts. The young boys are there, even the ones that eventually get to do good jobs. They are not well mannered. The next thing you see, the boy slap the wife. It didn't start. It didn't start in the marriage. It's something that has started when the young boy was a kid. He must have been slapping his sister. He must have been harassing his classmates in school. He must have had anger issues right from when he was a kid. So you have to be able to guide this young boy to know how to surmount these challenges. Most of the challenges that some of the young boys have today, they are not like completely new. They are not new. They are challenges that we must have also faced as young boys as well. So when you have models, it's easy for us to guide them and say, no, if you do this, this will be the result. If you do this, that will be the result. You guide them properly. And when you guide them that way, the young boys will grow better. And they will know that it is wrong for you to raise your hand on any human being. It doesn't have to be a woman. When the young boy grows and knows that you shouldn't raise your hand on any human being, you will eventually remember that a woman is a human being too.
Human.
So you shouldn't raise your hand. It is a normal thing for you to explain to the young boy that anger is natural. It's natural to be angry. But the Bible clearly states that anger rests in the bosom of fools. So what that simply means indirectly is that it's okay for you to be angry. It's like, it's okay because you're a human being, isn't it? You are mortal. You are not a saint. But where you stretch the anger and eventually make the anger to cause you to take a bad action, that makes you a fool. So if we are able to train these young boys well today, we're automatically sure that we'll have a better future tomorrow. Are you going to talk about the number of thieves we have across the world today? The number of thieves we have? You think they just started, stealing from, when they became adults? They must have had some of those tendencies when they were young boys. Are you talking about the tyrants of the world today? Are you talking about the African leaders who are real tyrants, who can kill? They don't care about the dignity of humanity? They didn't start today. I must tell you, all those vices didn't start today. These are vices that people face. The society becomes turns and becomes the receiving issue.
The receiving
Yes, these are the vices that we have across the world, across Africa. These leaders that you see that are tyrants, that are killing people, that could easily without blinking send a battalion of army to go and shoot people and kill. I must tell you that those were the same characteristics that they exhibited when they were boys, when they were kids. It is either some of the people that they were watching, some of the people that they were, tailoring their lives to us, were exhibiting those same characteristics. So the young boys learned from the wrong people and they grew up, and that's what they are doing now as men. So what we have been able to do and what we are currently doing is for us to kind of look for a way of changing that. If we are able to solve 50% of the crisis that young boys are facing, I must tell you, that we will successfully solve 25 to 50% of the problems that women face. Because most of the problems, the vices that women pass through actually come from men. From the issues of rape, if we are not able to tame our young boys to understand that, yes, it is natural for you to be sexually active. It is natural for you to see a beautiful woman and you desire her. It's natural. These are natural tendencies. But we should be able to let them know that there are consequences. If somebody does not give you consent, if somebody does not say, yes, I like you, yes, I want it, you should stay away from it. These are the things we must be able to instill into the minds of our young boys, and they grow with it. When they grow with it, they run with it. That's how it works. So once we are able to do that, we'll solve most of the problems we have across the world. And which is why I said it is good for us to continue clamoring for the change with women and all that. But let me tell you, that is not solving the problem from the root. The root of the problem is actually the men. That's where the root of the problem is coming from. And if we must solve
that is happening.
That is happening. And if we must solve the problem from the root, then we need to go and talk to the young men who are the ones that are leading the issues of rape, who are the ones that are doing the domestic abuse. I'm not saying that women don't abuse their husbands, but all 90% or more are from men. It's just a very small little chunk are from women. So if we're able to do that, solve all those problems, solve the problem of theft, solve the problem of whatsoever, all the crises we have across the world, I'm telling you the truth, we would have reduced drastically most of the social vices that we have across the world, whether they are the ones that pertain to women or not. Because let me tell you one very simple thing before I close this particular question. You see, the woman is also a human being. So when you say that the responsibilities of cooking and taking care of the children only rest on the shoulders of the woman, then I think you are wrong. Let us be truthful to ourselves. I think you're wrong. Because whether you like it or yes, in today's society that we are right now, there are a lot of women that are the breadwinners in their homes.
Absolutely.
I am not therefore saying that the woman should become the man or take up
No,
the
no.
manly responsibilities. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I, for one, cannot sit back and watch my wife return from work at 7 p.m. and I had returned from work at 6 p.m. and I'll watch my wife enter the kitchen. I came back at 6 p.m. and I'll come and lay down on my bed, and my wife will come back at 7 after 7 and still come and enter the kitchen and cook for me. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of man because, of course, like I pointed out earlier, that's not how we're trained. We're trained in such a way that we stood up and did virtually everything for ourselves.
Okay,
You know,
so
so
let me pause it there because you've actually answered most of the questions that would have followed suit, and this all of these are pointers to the fact that the family plays critical role to the kind of men we push out there into the society, and of course this eventually affects the kind of home we get to rest in the end, because every man, every right thinking man, except he wants to be a priest, that's a reverend father, or you just want to a eunuch, you wouldn't want to get married. But every man out there wants to get married at some point in life. And when that time comes, there will always be a problem. There will be the problem of non-compatibility. There will be the problem of complex. We could have the superiority complex, where the man always feel like you're trying to share that I'm the man of the house. Let her do everything. But we should also understand, like you've said, that the times are changing. And of course, people should begin to take responsibility. Ekpeno, I must thank you sincerely indeed. But let's get to, talk about how we could help the boy child, because we are almost running out of time. This conversation was supposed to last for a maximum of 45 minutes, but we are almost hitting that target. I want to ask, in what ways can we help our boys? Or perhaps our men, because we have boys who are in men's shirts. I don't even understand my question. Like, you're grown up, you're 40, you're 30, but you will still have the attributes of a boy. Because, like you've shared, any man that will come back from work earlier than the wife, I will still wait for the wife to come back and prepare meal. I would say is a man, is a boy in the clothing of a man. So how do we help boys? How can the society help? How can the government help? How can the family help the boy child become?
So what we are doing so far in the Adams Project Africa, this for us is one of the methodologies that we're using to make sure that this project thrives, is that we have communication channels. So we simply utilize the different both the conventional and the alternative communication channels. That's what we're using currently to disseminate information, because the first thing is let people know that what they are doing is wrong. If people don't know that what they're doing is wrong, you won't be able to solve anything. So the first thing is for us to send information out there. So we are utilizing the radio stations. These are conventional media. We're utilizing the TV stations to talk massively about the problem, that there is a problem. We're also using the social media platforms to talk about the problems. These problems exist. And at the same time, we're using the alternative channels, either through drama creation or musical, a piece and all that. We're using all these alternative channels to talk with people. And then we also have the community outreach, where we actually go into the communities and sit down with community leaders, sit down with these children and talk to them. We go to schools and talk to them. This first is the first approach, which is talking to them, communication. From there now, once we are able to talk to them, we started something last year during the International Men's Day, which we call the TAPA models. So we
Yeah.
have model men. We have men that we have pinpointed. We have watched those men over the last couple of years and see how they have tailored their life towards, solving societal problems and how they are living a life worthy of emulation. So what we did was that we simply handpicked those men and put them as the TAPA models. Then what we have done, I think in this very project that we're doing, some of those model men have followed their teams, the state where they are, to go to the schools to talk to the boys. So what we have done is that we've made those models available so that these boys will have those models for them to, want to watch and know how to live their life. So for us, because this project is still a baby, I still call it a baby. So those are the approaches we have used first to address. So we start with communication. Now we have put in place models. These models will go ahead and do that. While that is going on, we have already set up a counseling team across all the places because some of these young boys have been battered, either battered by society or battered by family or battered by situations and environment. So we have put in place counselors. So in each of these places where we have counselors, young boys will counselors will go and meet these young boys because if you say they should come to you, they might not come to you. So we go to them and then counselors counsel these young boys, sit down with them and discuss issues and find viable solutions to these issues that these boys have. And it will interest you to know that as I yesterday, some of the stories that I was hearing in some of the communities, I heard a very interesting story in Ghana where some of these boys were simply talking about very deep, silent issues that in the real sense of it, they will not say nothing about. And they were talking about these things. And the counselor simply assisted the young boys to, solve some of these things and presented to them better ways in which the young boys, should overcome these problems. And that for me is, for now, the approach that we're using, the approaches, the methodologies that we're using to address the crisis. As time unfolds, we will know what best to do. Once the report of this very project comes out, we will sit down as a team and look at where the major challenges are coming from. And then we'll know precisely which approach to use to, approach a particular problem. Because for all the problems, we might not end up using the same approach to solve them. So we'll look for which approach will suit a particular problem to solve those problems. And then we set the boys into the society and keep on monitoring them for the next 5-10 years. Next 5-10 years, those boys will no longer be boys. They'll be young men. And then we can then know if truly we're able to do that. We are building leaders. We are building men who have self-worth. Those are the people we are building. And by the grace of God, we will hit it.
And I say amen to that. I like the fact that you integrate faith, you integrate God into the things you're doing, and in all of your communications, you've been referencing the place of God and the place of faith and how humanity can be better. Referencing those particular forces. Thank you so very much, Ekpeno.
I do that because all the things I do, I have not done it by my will. I have not done it by my strength. I do it because there is something else that is pushing me. There's a spirit, and that spirit is God Himself.
I like that fact, and the Bible speaking says, by self shall no man prevail. So it's only when we anchor all of our faith, all of our belief in God, that we can achieve great things. And I'm happy with the things you're doing, and of course the things you're achieving for yourself. It's been a wonderful and a fruitful conversation here with you, Ekpeno. So, but before you go, as we mark the International Day of the Boy Child, what is your message? What is your message? What would you say if you were to meet a boy child right now? What would you say to that boy child?
Before I tell you what I will say to the boy child, let me use this opportunity and actually thank all the volunteers. I must say it again. I've said it on 10 times, but I'll say it again, that the Adams Project Africa actually runs on the shoulders of volunteers. It runs successfully on the shoulders of volunteers. Every single person that is working, under that project is a volunteer. And you can see the massive show of love that all the people, have shown for this project. Everybody wants to volunteer. Unfortunately, we can't really have everybody. but a lot of people want to volunteer for the project. And that's why I want to use the opportunity to thank all the volunteers across Africa who have left their different responsibilities to volunteer to make sure that there is a genuine change in the lives of young boys in their immediate communities. Thank you very much for all you are all doing across Africa. Back to your question, Edion Senyene, I will say that for all the young boys who are listening to me right now, or for all the men who were once young boys who are listening right now, because for all of us men, directly or indirectly, we have the responsibility of taking care of boys. Directly or indirectly, we are in contact with boys on a daily basis. So what I will say will be, always look at yourself, how you'll be when you are 80. How will you be when you are 80? How will you love to be seen when you are 80? The same way you love to be seen when you are 80, that's how you should behave now. If you want to be remembered for what is good, live good. You want to be remembered for what is bad, go ahead. But the unfortunate thing is that you do what is bad, there are bad consequences to it. And I don't wish that to any young boy, because we actually want to change this society. And if we change the society, it's not better for me alone. It's better for all of us put together, because the society is already too intoxicated right now. So we need to find a way of lifting the cloud of darkness that is hovering across the world, which is the reason why we had the theme, Shine a Light to Rescue the Boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ekpeno. Indeed, we must behave how we want to be regarded when we are 80, when we are gone past this particular age that we are currently in. Thank you so very much, Ekpeno, for sparing your time to be on the show, and thank you, for giving us the audience, because I remember that we had to approach you quite a short time for you to come on this show today, but you all gave us your consent. We appreciate you, Ekpeno, for the value you have for time and how prompt you've been in your response. Thank you so very much indeed, and thank you for the many things you do for the boy child and of course the men out there. We appreciate you. Do have a fantastic. I hope. Let me ask, if you come again your way, you always want to be a part of what we do at EIN TV.
I didn't get that.
I said, I hope if we come to you again, you always want to be a part of what we do here at EIN TV.
Oh, sure. I will always be there. You know it. I will always be there.
Thank you so very much indeed. Thank you
for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful conversation here today with the Executive Director of the Helpers Network and, of course, the progenitor of the Adams Project Africa. And they've been doing a wonderful tour across the continent of Africa where they talk to young boys. And it's been a beehive of activities for the past 3 days for the Adams Project Africa and the team across different countries in Africa and across about 23 states in Nigeria in particular. And I give kudos to the volunteers and everyone. And this was a very special edition on EIN TV to mark the International Day of the Boy Child. Of course, already a lot has been done for the girl child. And even as a boy, I know I used to get jealous. Hey, it's only these people. But of course, I must thank the people that came, or the thought leaders, found it pertinent to say that the boy child is also recognized and they are being showed love across the globe, because how they're being celebrated show the fact that everyone values the boy child. So if you're a boy child, and of course you were not aware that we have the International Day Boy Child, just like we now have the International Men's Day, so you should feel loved. Don't commit that vices again. Don't be a thorn in the flesh of the society. Do your best to be the best. And of course, like our guest today said, that whatever it is we do today, we should always think of how we'll be regarded 20, 30 years from now, when we are 80, when we are 70, or at whatever age you think you will grow up to. So think about that time and how you'll be regarded by the society based on your activities when you were a younger person. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the size of our show today. It's been a special edition to mark the International Day of the Boy Child on EIN TV. My name is Ekpeno John Ukut, and I sincerely thank everyone who has been part of this show. Though it was impromptu because you just had to celebrate the boy child. But thank you for sparing your time and your resources to be a part of this conversation today. And don't forget to follow us on our social media handles. We are at TV underscore EIN on Twitter. On Facebook, we are EIN TV. And on YouTube, we are EIN TV. Please watch, share, and make sure that every boy child out there and everyone get to hear and listen to this message. Thank you so very much once again. My name is Edion Senyene Dunobong, and this is EIN TV. Good night.
This is EIN TV, your one-stop TV